the first thing I'm going to do is figure out if the final answer is a negative or positive. So I'm going to focus on the 5 and 3/7, that positive number, being divided by this negative 1 and 3/7. Well, positive divided by a negative would be a negative answer. Then we have another negative out in front of that negative number. Well, if you have a negative negative, that means your answer is going to be positive. You could think of it as, what is the opposite of a negative number? Well, it's a positive number. So my final answer is going to be a positive. So now that I know that, I don't have to really stress about keeping track of these negative symbols. Now, you'll notice in this problem, I did not give you the steps 1, 2, and 3 over here on the right side like I normally do, because I want you to start getting used to remembering these on your own. When you're taking the EOG, they're not going to have steps 1, step 2, step 3. You're going to have to remember this. So think about step 1, step 2, step 3. What did step 1 say? Step 1 said you need to make sure the numerator and the denominator are fractions. Oops, let me erase that. So I'm going to start by changing 5 and 3/7 to an improper fraction by multiplying the 5 by the 7 and then adding the 3, which gives me 38, and then the denominator remains a 7. So I've converted the numerator to a fraction. Now I'm going to focus on the denominator. I multiply 1 by 7 and get 7. Then I add the numerator, which is 3, to get 10. And then the denominator remains the same, so it stays a 7. So I've completed step 1, where you change the numerator and denominator to a fraction. After that, I hope that you remember that the next step, step 2, is to change the fraction bar to a division symbol. You record the numerator first, the 38/7, and the denominator second, the 10/7. So we completed step 2. Step 3 is where we keep change reciprocal. So we keep the 38/7, we change the division to multiplication, and then we record the reciprocal of 10/7, which is 7/10. From here, I think it's easier to reduce diagonally first, and then multiply the numerators, and then multiply the denominators. So I'm going to focus on this 7 and this 7. I can divide 7 and 7 by 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1. And up here, 7 divided by 7 is also 1. I can also reduce diagonally this direction, because 38 and 10 are both even numbers and can be divided by 2. Half of 10 is 5. And then when you think about half of 38, I think of about half of 30 is 15, half of 8 is 4, so half of 38 is 19. And I circle the numbers I have left over so that it's as clear as possible what I'm multiplying. So I multiply the numerators, and I see the 19 and the 1 are circled, so I get 19. I see the 1 and the 5 are circled, and I get a 5. And I had already decided that my answer was a positive. So the answer is 19/5. Or think about it. How many times does 5 go into 19? Well, 5 times 3 is 15. And the difference between 19 and 15 is 4, so we have a remainder of 4, and then the denominator stays the same. We could have also, let me make a little bit more room for this, we could have multiplied across first. Let's take a look at what that would have looked like. 38 was being multiplied by 7/10. So I could have multiplied across first. This part's easy. 7 times 10 is 70. I would need to figure out what 38 times 7 is. Okay, 3 times 7 is 21, plus 5 is 26. So 266. You can always multiply first and then reduce. So I probably would have next divided each of these numbers by 2, realizing that they're even. So I would have gotten 133 over 35. And then I would need to think about, what else could I divide these by? And I probably wouldn't be sure. I'd probably have to take the 35 and say, all right, 35 I know breaks down into 7 times 5. So all I need to do is see if 133 can be divided by 7 or by 5. I know it can't be divided by 5 because it doesn't end in 5 or 0, but I do not know if it can be divided by 7. I would have to actually take the time to divide it. So I'm going to have to erase some of my previous work to make room for this. So 7 goes into 13 once. And then 1 times 7 is 7, 13 minus 7 is 6, carry down the 3. 7 goes into 63 9 times. So we'd end up with realizing that you can divide 133 by 7 and 35 by 7. And we'd end up with 19 over 7, just like we did over here. Over here we got our answer to be 19 sevenths or 3 4/5. I think it's a lot easier to reduce first and then multiply, but you are welcome to multiply first and then reduce afterwards.